Good evening. Well, the Battle of the Beltway is wrapping up just a short time ago. The outcome, well, it was what most of us expected. The final score 31-17. The Ravens beating the Washington football team at Washington, and that is where we find our Darren Haynes. He was there for the game, and Darren, I think you and I both expected this one to come out as it did.
You know what, Charlotte, I tried to think positive in a positive way all week. But yes, when you have a team that had the best record last year, a team that's, a favorite to win the Super Bowl this year, one of the favorites to win the Super Bowl in the Baltimore Ravens, yeah, you kind of knew Washington coming into this ball game was going to be an automatic L. How do you stop a guy like Lamar Jackson, though? This is a guy where you can tell the difference between who is a reigning NFL MVP and then who is a guy like Dwayne Haskins, who's still trying to learn in his second year in the season. And, the plays that he was making was amazing. The 50-yard run, to put that in perspective, Charlotte, that's the longest run by a quarterback in the last 5 seasons and the longest of his career. So we saw history today from Lamar Jackson. Unfortunately, the Washington football team, they had to witness that. Mm-hmm. Here's the positive news, though, Charlotte. Washington's 1-3 right now. You know what that's good enough for? That's good enough for first place in the NFC East. Yes. No, 3-game losing streak, but they're still in first.
Yes, they are. Hard to believe, but that is where the NFC East stands right now. Washington in first place right now at 1-3, as you mentioned, and you talked about Lamar Jackson. He was just too good to stop today. That 50-yard touchdown rush, the longest of his career, obviously, and it made him the leading rusher for the Baltimore Ravens today as well. And then some of those throws right on target to Mark Andrews in the end zone there for those 2 touchdowns. Just pretty incredible watching what Lamar Jackson was able to do. Yes, he had that one mistake. He had that one interception that he threw there to Kendall Fuller, and Kendall Fuller actually picking up 2 interceptions on the day today. So nice to see him have a great game. It wasn't all bad for Dwayne Haskins, right? It wasn't all bad. Dwayne Haskins, 314 yards, no interceptions. That is the key. After what we saw last week with him throwing 3 interceptions at Cleveland and finally able to come back home this week against a very tough Ravens defense, and he had no interceptions, no turnovers for Dwayne Haskins. He is learning. He is growing, and that is something Ron Rivera hopes to see every single week. Every time we talk to Coach Rivera, he says, hey, he's learning. He's young. We have to keep improving. And I think with the no interceptions this week, no turnovers for Dwayne Haskins, that's an improvement.
I do agree with you on the part with no turnovers. That was definitely an improvement that we wanted to see out of Dwayne Haskins after throwing 3 interceptions last week against the Cleveland Browns. The way I wanted Dwayne Haskins to play today was like week 1 and week 2, 0 turnovers. However, the thing that I need to see out of Dwayne Haskins that he still did in this particular game against Baltimore. He has some easy throws that he sails sometimes. Mm-hmm. And then there's times where he holds on to the ball too long. You got to know when to get rid of that ball so you don't take a sack. There's some avoidable sacks. And there was one time, like right behind me on this side of the field, where it was maybe 2nd and goal, 1st and goal, and he took an 18-yard sack.
Yeah, you can't do that.
That can't happen. That's something Dwayne Haskins. Yeah, that's something Dwayne Haskins needs to know. That when I'm in that particular position in the red zone, an opportunity to score against a quality Baltimore team, that he needs to just throw that ball away and take the L. Sometimes you have to lose some to gain more.
And one thing that Ron Rivera said after the game was he was disappointed in Dwayne Haskins' situational awareness. He brought up going forward on 4th down there at the end of the game. And at that point, Ron Rivera is saying, we need to get in the end zone, or we need to have that next play get us closer to the end zone. We can't be throwing the short passes like he did that don't even get us that 1st down. That's a situation where you were down big at the end of a game. He's going for it on 4th down. He needed to see more out of his quarterback, and he did not see what he wanted to see. He said he's got to work on that situational awareness. But as we know, Ron Rivera always positive. He's still sticking with Dwayne Haskins. He still believes in him, and he's liking the little improvements that he's made. Let's take a listen of what Ron Rivera had to say after the game about Dwayne Haskins today.
Well, I thought Dwayne had his moments. There's some things, again, we're still working through. He's still developing. He's still learning. There's some things that obviously I know he's going to wish he had back once we get a chance to really break the tape down and look at it. He made some plays, obviously, and he missed some plays. We'll talk about situational awareness. We'll talk about certain things that, that he's got to continue to grow on and understand that he has to do. And this is all a growing and learning process for him.
And we keep watching him grow, and we hope he grows a little faster, a little better each week. Now, I do want to bring up, though, we are on Facebook Live right now. We want to hear your comments. We want to know what you think about this game. Are you a Ravens fan watching us right now and you are thrilled? Are you a Washington football fan right now and you have a lot of frustrations? Tell us about those frustrations. Tell us what you think and what you saw from Dwayne Haskins today. We have it live on our Facebook page, so we will be taking those comments live on the air. And, you know, again, talking about Haskins, Darren.
I'm curious what some of these fans are going to say, Charlotte.
I know. Let's see. We have.
I'm so curious on what some of these fans are going to say.
Let's see. I can pull up some right now.
Well, you don't have to read them right now unless you want to.
Well,
Go ahead.
I mentioned if you're a Ravens fan watching, and I think we got a lot of those. I see a lot of Ravens Nation. Go Ravens. And then I'm seeing some people, same comments we heard last week, needing to protect the quarterback, saying Dwayne Haskins doesn't have enough time. Again, yes, we've talked about that O-line, but he did make some throws that seemed like easy throws, seemed like a good target there. They were overthrown. They weren't good throws.
Well, this goes back to now the offensive line that we've been talking about all season. You can't do a lot without an offensive line.
Right.
And yes, a lot of stuff you can blame Dwayne Haskins on, but when you don't have an offensive line, I can't stress to you enough, that is like building a house without a foundation. If you have no foundation in your house will collapse. And Dwayne Haskins is on the second floor of the house. All of his running backs and receivers are on the first floor. And unfortunately, that offensive line that's missing players, that key players that they had last year and previous years, like for an example, 7-time Pro Bowl Trent Williams, who's now in San Francisco. When you lose those particular guys, and Brandon Sheriff, a guy who's a quality player himself, who is injured for a few weeks, that foundation is weak.
It is, and you know, we've seen that, obviously. We've seen that Haskins is struggling. We've talked about it the last few weeks, that offensive line really needs to step it up, and they are weak right now, and they need to improve. And we're talking about a few good points of the game. Let's talk about Antonio Gibson. A breakout game for him. This dude was solid, and he came out strong today. Let's see, he 13 carries for 46 yards, but then he had those 4 huge receptions for 82 yards. A great game, really, for Antonio Gibson.
Yeah, I love Antonio Gibson. I always mention, people were wondering why did they get rid of Adrian Peterson, a future Hall of Famer who's done so much for this Washington football team, because they knew Antonio Gibson can bring a lot to the table. If you look at him in college, Memphis, the dude was almost like a slot receiver, running 4.40, very fast. But he's a running back, and he's, 6'2", 230 pounds? That's a big dude. And the thing about Antonio Gibson, what we also would love to have out of Dwayne Haskins, Antonio Gibson is getting better and better every single game. This is now 3 straight games he has scored a rushing touchdown. And if you want to calculate all the numbers, his 3 touchdowns is tied for first for rushing touchdowns in the NFL for rookies.
Wow.
So he's leading the league in touchdowns for rookies and rushing touchdowns. And that's Antonio Gibson. So he is definitely a great asset to the Washington offense.
And speaking of great assets, Terry McLaurin, we've talked about him every single week. You and I both have him on our fantasy football teams because we said he's consistent. He is that consistent factor.
I'm checking right now.
I haven't checked yet to see how many points he got us, but he had another 100-yard game.
16.8.
All right. I mean, 10 receptions, 118 yards from Terry McLaurin. He's been doing well each week. He is that consistent factor that helps out Haskins.
Yeah, the thing about Terry McLaurin, he's you know what you're going to get out of him week in and week out. This is a guy who, as soon as he stepped on the field for his first NFL game against the Philadelphia Eagles last year, he was a star. You know what you're going to get out of him. You know you're going to get that slant route. That's the thing that I think Dwayne Haskins and Terry McLaurin, that pitch and catch, that slant route, is something that's always going to be there for them. It works all the time. And the thing about Terry McLaurin, he's also a guy, when he catches the ball, he's hard to take down. I mean, his yards after contact is amazing. The only problem is when it comes down to this offense that gets me so frustrated, Charla, is that they just need more weapons. I love Antonio Gibson stepping up. Terry McLaurin's always going to be there. But then you just wonder about some of the other guys. Who is the supporting cast for Dwayne Haskins? Dwayne Haskins is Michael Jackson, but where is Tito? Where's Jermaine? Like, right, like,
Where
where's
are the rest
Jackie?
of 'em?
Where's Marlon? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do know what you're saying.
And I guess the other problem is Dwayne Haskins is not playing like Michael Jackson right now. He's playing more like what's the one that never sang? Like, Tito? No, Tito sang. Jackie didn't sing. Jackie's the one that. So Dwayne Haskins is playing like Jackie when we need him to play like Michael. But the supporting cast for the Jackson 5, aka I guess the Haskins 5, needs to step up.
That might be the best analogy I've ever heard. You're right. They do need to step it up. And, when we're seeing a guy like Lamar Jackson step it up, and he has great weapons, but he himself is a weapon. We're not seeing Dwayne Haskins rush for a 50-yard touchdown. We're not seeing Dwayne Haskins get out of the pocket and be as mobile as Lamar Jackson is. So, yeah, when you're comparing him to that, and that's the level that Washington football fans want to see. They want to see Dwayne Haskins at that same level as Lamar Jackson. But, of course, we're just not seeing that.
Yeah, that's going to be tough for Dwayne Haskins to be anywhere close to Lamar Jackson. And this is not a crack on Dwayne Haskins. Just Lamar Jackson is just that. He can run really, really well. Every quarterback's not like that. Dwayne Haskins is more of a pocket passer, so it's kind of unfair for me to kind of compare the two. But Lamar Jackson, he is special, and I'm going to read this out, Charlotte, because it's just so much detail that I can't remember it. I'm getting old now.
Okay.
But Lamar Jackson is the fastest quarterback in NFL history to reach 5,000 passing yards and over 2,000 rushing yards in NFL history. He accomplished that today. Went over 5,000 passing yards today. He already got the 2,000 last week. But Lamar Jackson, what he's doing right now, we have never seen in the decades of the National Football League. We've never seen it before.
I'm trying to read some of these comments here, and let's see. Seeing a lot of hail to the Ravens. A lot of Ravens Nation, of course, they're thrilled. Right now, they're thrilled that they have Lamar Jackson. And Joe is in my ear, our producer Joe. Joe, what were you telling me was one of the comments? Washington is going east-west, not north up the field, from Kevin Anthony on Facebook there.
That basic. If they're not going north and south, which most coaches will tell you, make sure you run the ball or pass the ball north and south. Yeah, that means they're not moving anywhere. But look at this though. There were some positive moments from this Washington football team.
Yes.
If you look at that first quarter, the first drive by Baltimore, this is now 2 straight weeks they didn't allow a touchdown in their first drive. It stayed sort of close. They weren't blown out right away. This was a team that I believe Baltimore's maybe 2 out of their first 3 possessions, Baltimore didn't put anything on the board. The only time they put points on the board for the first time was when Washington turned the ball over.
Right.
They put the defense in a tough position. So let's give Washington a lot of credit. Maybe they didn't come out with that firepower and scoring a whole bunch of points right away, but the defense was holding a high-power offense.
Yeah.
Keeping them off the board for a certain period of time.
Yeah, like we said, the defense looked really good early on in that first quarter. I mean, other than that turnover by J.D. McKissick there, and obviously that was a frustrating moment for Washington fans. And the defense kept coming out in the field and kept putting a stop in that first quarter early on. And I was watching this game early on thinking, okay, all right, maybe they can do something here. And then obviously we saw Baltimore kind of just take it away. But Kendall Fuller, we haven't really seen too much from him this season. He was a huge acquisition for the team this year, and 2 interceptions today. I liked that out of him.
Well, that's what you get out of Kendall Fuller.
Yeah.
This is the reason why they brought him back. Here's the weird thing about it. Kendall Fuller found out that he was being traded to Kansas City for Alex Smith, like off of Twitter. That's how Washington treated Kendall Fuller. Then Kendall Fuller goes to Kansas City and wins a ring. So Washington does Kendall Fuller wrong, like did some shady stuff. But he's good enough for Washington to come back and be like, hey, man, listen, I know I did you kind of wrong when I traded you for Alex Smith, but you're good, and I kind of want you to come back. You gotta, you gotta really put your pride to the side for that.
Yeah.
But they're doing that because Kendall Fuller is that kind of player. There's a reason why when he came back from that injury, he didn't come in as a backup. He came in as a starter because that's what Kendall Fuller brings to the table. He's a Super Bowl champion.
Yeah, and he looked like one today. He was great. He was a bright spot for that Washington defense. let's talk a little bit about what you got to witness there in person before the game started, and what many of us got to watch on television before the game started with Ron Rivera. As we know, he's been battling cancer, and this week was a particularly tough week for him. He missed several practices this week, undergoing cancer treatments, and he said it's been tough. He admitted he is feeling weak. He is tired. This is a lot. I think his exact words were, "It's been a bear this week." And we saw him sitting down a lot before the game and during the game as well. But then what Washington football did to surprise their head coach today before the game, pretty incredible. We're seeing on our screen now the images. Darren, talk a little bit about that today.
Yeah, it was an amazing sight. One, just seeing the fans in the stands, the cardboard cutouts was great. And then all of a sudden you look over at this section of the corner of the field, and then it says Coach's Corner, hashtag Rivera Strong. Mm-hmm. And you see all these supporters, because, it's obviously Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but they are supporting all, there's different forms of cancer. And Ron Rivera is trying to battle his own. And there's all these supporters, I think it was roughly around 400 different supporters, fans. Mm-hmm. I believe there was like Luke Kuechly, his former player with the Carolina Panthers, was one of the players that was on there.
We saw Andy Reid. Andy Reid was there as well.
Two NFL coaches. Mm-hmm. Andy Reid was on there. And the thing about Ron Rivera, he did not know this was happening. Mm-hmm. Like, he came to the field ready for the game, and next thing you know, he looks up and he sees this huge surprise, and that means a lot, because I'm sure it means a lot to him. And like he said during the postgame, it does mean a lot that you have that type of moment that you want to lift your spirits up. Because I'm sure, like you said, Charlotte, he had a tough week, and something like that, to know that people have your back, that's got to feel good, Charlotte.
And yeah, he did get emotional during that moment when he first saw it for the first time. He got emotional after the game when talking about it. And I think one of the biggest things, he said they even had his pets up there. They had other NFL coaches, former players, current players, so many people that he had no idea had come together and done this for him. Let's listen to what he had to say after the game.
It's a struggle, it's a battle, and I just don't represent me. I represent all those folks, all those people that are afflicted, all those people that fight, all those people that have fought, and I just feel honored. It was really cool to come out early and see the tribute. It was very poignant at one point, because my brother that passed away, they had his picture in that collage. So that was really cool. It really was. It meant a lot to me, and it was very poignant, though. Thank you guys.
And you can hear him getting choked up, getting emotional there, and I think it was emotional for many people. And he said, "I'm not just doing this for me. We're all in this together, and I'm fighting this fight for all of those people out there who have struggled with cancer and who have loved ones with cancer." So a great effort today by the Washington football team to surprise Coach Ron Rivera in doing that, giving him his Coach's Corner with Rivera Strong. Just an amazing moment.
Well, Charlotte, that was actually my first time listening to that Ron Rivera sound. I was trying to listen to both, and the Ravens as well. And for Ron Rivera to still coach an NFL franchise and to battle with cancer really just shows a lot about who he is as a person. And for people who are Washington football fans and you just don't like that 1-3 record, and you feel like this team should just turn around and be the greatest ever, just think about the quality of coach that this team has. And although things are not going as smooth as you want them to be, just remember you have a head coach who will do anything for this particular team, and that is risk his life. He does not have to be out here on this field. He does not have to get IV treatments. I think he said 2 bags of IV treatment before this game, or the week 1 game where he had to get the IV treatment during the game. He should be at home resting, but he is out here. So anybody who questions this Washington football team and the hire of Ron Rivera, or questions the coaching staff and how they're going to handle this team, just remember who you have in Ron Rivera. That is a guy who is really showing his true colors, who he actually is.
And to touch on that, after the game, he was asked, why was he there? It was obvious that he was struggling at sometimes, that he was sitting down a lot, maybe even leaning on assistants. And he said, "I want to be there for the guys," and I'm reading this, "I want to be there for the guys I believe in them. I want them to believe in me. I want to be there for these guys. And there's no question, as you said, he wants to be there. He is a head coach in the NFL. He is standing there on those sidelines, and he is doing the job to the best of his ability. And I think everyone can appreciate that and respect that this man, as you said, could be at home doing these cancer treatments, and instead he is here. And he is showing these guys resiliency. He is showing them Rivera Strong. And it's pretty incredible.
One thing I wanted to hear, which we didn't get the opportunity to, but John Harbaugh with the Ravens, obviously he was joking earlier before the year. He was saying that, he's friends with Ron Rivera. He's one of those friends you just don't call all the time, but yet you're still friends. And I was, I would love to hear what his reaction was when he runs through the tunnel to cover his Baltimore Ravens team, because where the coach's corner is located, where it says hashtag Rivera Strong, is on the Baltimore Ravens side.
Right.
So I'm wondering what he would say. But in regards to just Baltimore and the franchise that John Harbaugh has, they don't lose a lot, and they bounce back really well. And I guess I got to talk about Baltimore as well, because
we have a lot of Baltimore people chiming in here.
There's so many Ravens fans in this area. Yeah, there's so many Raven fans in this area that are really enjoying everything of what Washington fans would love to enjoy. I was looking at this stat in regards to Lamar Jackson. I mean, he's 21-1. If you take out all the games against the Chiefs in his career, Lamar Jackson is 22-1. That's an amazing record.
That's incredible.
They've won 8 straight road games. I think they've won now 5 or 6 games over NFC East opponents. This team just does not lose, and when you have a guy like Lamar Jackson on your team, that reigning NFL MVP, hearing that post game, them talk about that just shows you the quality of firepower and the weapons that Baltimore has.
And yeah, listening to that post game, and Mark Andrews talked also after the post game, and of course we know he had 2 touchdowns thrown to him by Lamar Jackson today, and he said there's still more here. We still have more firepower. We still have more to show people, which is incredible. And they're coming off of that Chiefs loss, obviously, on Monday night. But as you said, they are a team that knows how to bounce back, and we saw that today. And I want to bring up, because you had the chance to interview him earlier this week, Hollywood Brown. A breakout game for him, almost 100 yards, 86 yards to be exact, and some huge catches for him in this game.
Yeah, Marquise Brown, or should you say Marquise Hollywood Brown. My first question when I was interviewing him, I was like, do you think you're going to beat the Washington football team on Sunday? And he made it very clear, I mean, with confidence, he just knew, there's no chance that Washington was going to win. And he was just like, I'm very confident that we will win. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Why do I need to interview you anymore? You made it very clear, and you showed it on the field. He's such a little guy and a speedy little guy. You know what's an amazing story about Marquise Brown that a lot of people don't know? Marquise Brown, he played in the same Pop Warner League as Lamar Jackson in that Florida area, and he had the opportunity to play college ball, but he didn't receive any Division I offers. So he went to a junior college out in California, but in California he had to pay for his education. So he worked at Six Flags to make ends meet while he was at that JUCO, and then received scholarship offers, and that's when he went to the University of Oklahoma, and then all of a sudden he's now in the NFL. But what an amazing story by Marquise Brown.
That's a great story. We're seeing a lot of, as we keep saying, guys have breakout moments, and a lot of them are rookies. We saw, Antonio Gibson with Washington, but then we're also talking about Patrick Queen. Wow, this guy had a game today for Baltimore. I'm reading here, 12 tackles, 3 for a loss. This guy was all over the field. We kept seeing Patrick Queen almost every single play. He was doing something to make Dwayne Haskins' life a nightmare.
Well, that's good for Baltimore, because the Ravens actually came into this game ranked 26th in pass defense. So they weren't one of the best pass defenders in this particular league. They're great at stopping the run, which I was totally surprised when we saw Antonio Gibson and what he was doing in the first half. It was almost like Ron Rivera was like, let's try to figure out a way to establish the run to try to make their greatest weapon weaker, or attack their greatest weapon, and it worked out really well. I was wondering. I know. This. Go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, I'm looking at some of our Facebook comments here of guys chiming in right now. And what's great to see is obviously there's always going to be the trash talk. It is Facebook. We're going to have, the Ravens fans and the Washington football team fans going back and forth. But right now, the most comments we're seeing, God bless you, Coach Rivera. You're in my thoughts and prayers. I hope he takes care of himself. In the grand scheme of things, his health matters much more than winning or losing. Prayers all out for Coach Rivera. So we're seeing a lot of comments here. Really in support of Coach Rivera, and how can you not support a guy like this?
Just curious, what are some of the names of some of the people who?
So we have Maria Lopez, and she's in South Bend, Indiana. She is watching us, and she says, "God bless you, Coach Rivera." Wow. James Sinoski, prayers all out for Coach Rivera. Daquan Garrett, I hope he takes care of himself in the grand scheme of things. Winning and losing is much smaller than beating cancer, which is what we know Coach Rivera will do.
Yeah, and we're all in it. We're all on the Ron Rivera team, or should I say, we're on the Rivera Strong team. And usually during this time they'll kind of stop play. And I know we've seen in the Major League Baseball where people will hold up a sign and they'll kind of write someone they know, or friend or family member that was diagnosed or that was affected by cancer. And I mean, it seems like everybody has somebody that they know that was affected by cancer. I mean, my father had prostate cancer, and Ron Rivera is also a father as well. And you think about how that affects family and when Ron Rivera as a father, like he has his kids, and and for me, as looking at my father and looking up to him. People look up to him as well, and they want him to get well as soon as possible. Cancer is a horrible disease.
Yeah, you're right. And it's nice to see kind of both sides here. You see Ravens fans and you see Washington football team fans kind of coming together for one thing, and really the league all coming together for Rivera Strong. And getting back a little bit to Baltimore, because we know the people watching us right now that are Ravens fans, you're all smiles. You're wearing your purple. You're excited. We get it. You guys have something to celebrate, because what a game for Baltimore. Even at the moments where they had mistakes, even after that Lamar Jackson interception, again, they come right back, and they come back hard, and they come back fast, and they really stuck it to this Washington football team today. And I know you had a chance to listen to Coach Harbaugh after the game, right, Darren?
Yeah, this might as well roll what Harbaugh had to say and Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, let's listen to it.
We just did a great job today. Coach was calling great plays. Our offensive line did great. Our offensive unit just played pretty good today. Get the W and have a long run.
It's a really big win. It's really an important win. And Washington played well, very well. Got 2 turnovers on us and did some good things with their offensive game plan. And Lamar came up and made some just big touchdown throws. Scramble plays, plays where he had great vision.
Yeah, and he's talking about that great vision. Okay, that touchdown that I'm just replaying over and over in my head, the one to Mark Andrews, right in the corner, perfect pass, perfect catch. Wow. I mean, you just saw the connection between the two guys today.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson loves throwing the ball to the tight end.
Yep.
He did that all last season, and Mark Andrews is one of his main targets. And someone, reporter was like, hey, how does it feel to get that chemistry back with your tight end, Mark Andrews? 'Cause I guess it wasn't the case in Kansas City. And he's like, the chemistry was always there. Obviously, it's a different opponent. But those two are boys. It's a big target. I think every quarterback needs that big target that they can throw, because it's almost like a guaranteed catch. And the way Lamar Jackson throws the ball sometimes, it looks like, whoa, what is he doing? But he threads that needle. And it just really shows you the difference between a regular NFL quarterback and an NFL quarterback that is a
he's at the next
reigning
level.
NFL MVP.
Yeah, I mean, that's right. And
oh, totally. You totally see it. It's. I mean, we've watched so many sporting events, and sometimes you watch like a little league game. You can just tell, like, okay, that kid is just too good for all the other kids. Like, he just stands out.
Right. And really, they looked like a complete team today. I mean, you had Lamar Jackson leading this offense and doing his part. You have his tight end, Mark Andrews, doing his part. You have his line blocking for him, doing their part. But then you get to the defense, and you have the defense. They stepped up. They looked great against Dwayne Haskins' offense. I mean, we saw a lot of different guys contributing on that defense. And let's see, I have a Marlon Humphrey who just signed that $98 million contract extension. Well, he came right up in the first, and he was one that stripped that ball from J.D. McKissic and got that kind of offensive flow going there then for Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, well, Baltimore is as advertised. They have a lot of weapons on their team.
Mm-hmm.
It's the reason why they're one of the teams, one of the favorites to make it to the Super Bowl. They have a lot of weapons. There are not a lot of spots on this Baltimore team that is a weakness. That's why it surprised me so much the way they lost to Kansas City. I expected them to compete a little bit better against Kansas City on Monday night in Baltimore at that. That's the only concern I have with Baltimore moving forward. I've been now in the Washington area since Lamar Jackson came to Baltimore. And what I saw in his first year when he took over as a starting quarterback when they played, I believe it was the San Diego Chargers in the playoffs, everything that we saw during the regular season just went MIA in that first playoff game. The year after that, Lamar Jackson, amazing season. Everything that we saw during the regular season, when it came down to that first postseason game against the Tennessee Titans, it was MIA. Now, all of a sudden, every single time he plays the Kansas City Chiefs, he sort of disappears, especially this year. That's my only concern with Baltimore. I would stand here right now and say Baltimore will win the Super Bowl. But in the back of my mind, I am concerned that that Baltimore team, the one where Lamar Jackson just goes MIA, shows up, is the reason why Baltimore won't win the Super Bowl. And it's happened too many times where I can't just stand here and just say Baltimore's going to make it all the way. Because it's in the back of my head.
Yeah.
You just never know what's going to happen. And I would hate that as a head coach, not knowing what team will show up in a big game.
And you know, one guy that I'm sure Lamar Jackson is thrilled that he didn't have to face today, Chase Young. We saw Chase Young on the sidelines today. He's getting hyped every single game, and it's probably killing a competitor like Chase Young to not be on that field.
Yeah, listen, I said this before our Facebook Live. Chase Young not being able to play because of his groin injury, it was okay because you have a guy like Ryan Kerrigan, a guy who holds the franchise record for total sacks, will step right in. However, Chase Young was definitely missed today. I know you mentioned it before. I think there was like one sack.
Just one sack.
Today, and yeah, just one sack. Now this is a team that came into this game ranked second in the league in total sacks. Matter of fact, they were number one in the NFL for the first 2 weeks. And now you take away Chase Young, who was having one of the best seasons for a defensive end in the last 35 years for what he was bringing to the table and the sacks that he was getting and the tackles that he was getting. So you take that away and you only have one sack out of this team. I don't want to say it's concerning. I think they should attack the quarterback more. The only reason why I'm just not that concerned by this is because you're dealing with Lamar Jackson. And Lamar Jackson, when it comes down to trying to chase down a quarterback, he's a different type of quarterback. You can't catch him.
Yep, that's true. We saw that today. We saw how he can scramble. I'm reading some of the Facebook comments here. Again, lots of Ravens fans, lots of Ravens Nation here. One guy is saying we need Antonio Brown to play alongside his cousin Hollywood Brown. Obviously, he's a Ravens fan. He wants Antonio Brown. That's a whole nother thing.
See, and Charlotte, listen. I will be with Antonio Brown. I will deal with all of his antics, all the. The position that Washington's in right now, I'll take an Antonio Brown, hands down. That gives Dwayne Haskins another weapon. I would love for Antonio Brown to come here. The problem is how much you're going to pay him. Yeah, that's the problem.
And deal with all of that. I feel like Ron Rivera could deal with all that. He seems like he could handle that just fine.
I think he could too. See, and that's the thing that we love about Ron Rivera. He is that coach where it's like, if you give me that lip, I'm going to sit you on the bench. Like, you have to respect him, and you're going to listen when he speaks.
Right.
And Antonio Brown, because there are a lot of egos in the NFL. I mean, these are grown men. It's not like high school ball where your coach can say, hey, you do this, you do that. You're dealing with grown men. Some of these people have wives and kids.
Yeah.
Antonio Brown, Ron Rivera, I want to say, kind of will bring that same type of culture like a Bill Belichick, where it's like, if you do something stupid, deuces, you're gone.
I'm trying to look through some more. I don't know if our producer, Joe, can help me out with reading a few of these here. But yeah, I mean, we're seeing, not as many negative comments about Washington football as we did last week. I think last week we saw a lot of frustrations come out, especially on Facebook. But we're not seeing so many negative comments.
You know why, Charla? You know why, Charla? You know why there's not that many negative comments?
Wait, why?
Because the Baltimore Ravens, you have the Baltimore Ravens, and then last week it was the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
You can't lose to the Cleveland Browns. Baltimore Ravens, yeah, we expected you to lose.
Yes.
The Cleveland Browns?
That's it. Yeah, we saw the frustration. So I think we do have a question here. As we've been seeing from the Washington football team all year long, they have the patch, the 49 for the late Bobby Mitchell. And a lot of people asking, what is that? And you can elaborate on that if you want, or I can. If you want to take it away.
Yeah, Bobby Mitchell is he in the Ring of Honor yet? They should have Bobby Mitchell.
I believe
somewhere
so.
up here.
I don't know if they officially put it up, but I know they were a retiring member.
Yeah. So Bobby Mitchell. Well, let's go back in time. The Washington franchise was one of the last teams to allow black players to play for their organization, and it's a reason why they took the former owner's statue down. Because it took so long, and it was dealing with racism and stuff like that. But Bobby Mitchell was the first African American player to ever play for the Washington organization. So history was made then. Black history was made, or should I just say American history was made. The late Bobby Mitchell passed away this year, and that's the reason why they have that patch for Bobby Mitchell, because he broke barriers, he broke records. And he passed away this year, so it's in memory of him. It's to recognize, to honor everything that he accomplished. Because when I was talking to Doug Williams, who had many conversations with him, and if you remember Doug Williams was the first African American starting quarterback to win a Super Bowl, and Doug Williams would tell me some of the conversations that he had with Bobby Mitchell was that he had to deal with the racism while he was playing. Yeah, he had to deal with that playing on the field, but then you got to go home and you deal with people saying, oh, you shouldn't be here, you shouldn't play for this organization. But yet he still fought through it, which shows a lot about who he is as a person. But that's why they wear that patch, to honor him.
Yeah, and they're going to wear it all season long. And
yeah,
I know. I like the insight. If someone's paying attention here. But yeah, we do see that patch, and of course they're going to have it on there all season long. So a great thing to see. We're seeing. Okay, so we have to bring this up because someone just brought it up. The fake punt. The fake punt, and we're talking about Sam Cook there. The 15-yard pass for the first down. He is perfect in his record. I think he's 7 for 7 now.
I think he's 7 of 7. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's 7 of 7. Like Lamar Jackson, gave him tons of praise for his accuracy as a quarterback during the post-game interviews after the game. It's always funny when you hear Sam Cooke, you're just like, oh shoot, Sam Cooke the singer, and I think he spells it with, is it K-O-C-H?
Yeah, it looks like K-O-C-H.
I believe that's how you spell it.
Yes.
Yeah, but you don't look at the spelling; you just hear the announcer say Sam Cooke, Sam Cooke. Here's something about this fake punt though. So there's a legendary college coach who I love, always wanted to play for, I just wasn't good enough to. Lou Holtz. And Lou Holtz will always Lou Holtz was a legendary coach, used to coach at Notre Dame. Lou Holtz used to always say, when a team runs a trick play, that means they're desperate. Baltimore wasn't desperate today. So it actually surprised me. It actually surprised me a little bit why they ran a fake punt. I'm thinking probably because it was towards the end of the second quarter and they feel like they can put some points on the board and not just kick a field goal or actually in that will not put any points on the board because they're out of field goal range. Maybe they're just trying to get some points on the board to get some momentum while heading into the locker room for halftime. But that surprised me. I was like, okay, you're running that fake punt when you possibly could use that fake punt in a playoff game. Now it's on tape. Now they see it.
Right. And now, does it surprise you? You were there. You're watching this game live. Forgive me, I don't know the name of who was doing the color commentary today on television that all of us were watching. But he actually called it about 3 seconds before it happened. He said, now this is a good opportunity for them to do a fake punt right on cue. So all of us watching went, Oh, okay. So, yeah, and then there you go. They had it, the fake punt, the 15-yard pass, and the first down, and Baltimore being Baltimore.
Sometimes it's that particular part of the field position where it's like
Right, I think that was a big part of it, yeah.
You're far enough for a punt, and then you're also maybe, well, you're close. You're sort of too close for a punt, or I don't know how to way to phrase it.
Yeah, I know
too
what
close
you're
to
saying.
punt, too far to kick a field goal, and so that's that perfect like fake punt zone
Right.
or fake field goal if you look at it.
Well, I think we have a lot of comments coming in, which is great.
Yeah, David Satchel, our photographer, was like caught him sleeping, and that's something as well. Because I used to be a guy who used to try to block the gunners. The gunners are the receivers that go down to try to make the tackle on the punt team, and you're supposed to block that guy. And when you have a young guy, because usually the young guys they play special teams, and he's going through the motions. You know, he's maybe not as disciplined as some of the other players, but he's trying to push that receiver like normal. Let me just jab the receiver a little bit and then get ready to block. And he's not thinking about a fake punt at all. He's not aware because he's just going through his normal punt return motions.
Yeah.
And I'm sure while they're watching tape throughout the week, they're like, that guy who blocks that gunner, he always seems to block the receiver, and then he kind of just runs down to make his block. He's never looking back and paying attention to what's going on in the backfield. Set him up perfectly. And you can tell by the receiver, it was like you told the receiver, run down and stop right at the first down marker.
Yep.
That's your go-to. Go to the first down marker and turn around, and then Sam Cook, his instructions are probably look where the down marker is, because that's where your receiver's going to stop.
Go right there. Make it easy.
Because Sam Cook, listen, he's not Tom Brady. He's not, I'm about to say Drew Bledsoe. He's not Drew Brees. Okay. Just throw to a spot.
Right.
Throw to a spot. You know where he's going to be by that first down marker. He's going to turn around right there. Just throw to that spot, and it worked out.
Well, Darren, we saw a lot today. We saw fake punts. We saw Lamar Jackson being Lamar Jackson. We saw a few good things from Dwayne Haskins, no interceptions, as we mentioned before. We saw some great, unfortunately, sacks by the Ravens on Dwayne Haskins. And, we saw a lot of room for improvement. So wrapping this up a little bit with a bow, what overall did you see, number one positive thing, number one thing that they need to work on?
Where do I start?
I know.
Because the working on part is going to be a little bit longer. The improving part of it is, the part that I'm happy to see is the defense is still a little bit consistent. I get what was on this field. But yet they held their own for a certain period of time. And we mentioned those Kendall Fuller, those two interceptions. So I can still roll the defense. The thing that I really need to see improve, which I still feel is a little bit unfair because you don't have the offensive line that you want to have. You don't have all those weapons, and then you have a Dwayne Haskins still trying to improve. But I want to see the offense go out and really execute, even if you don't score every single time. I just want to see those small little errors, like the bad passes to like an open receiver, what we call like simple pitch and catch. Like make it a simple pitch and catch. Don't let the ball sail on you. Just simple stuff, things that are routine catches that you're playing on air you can make. Or should I call them unforced errors? That's what I'd like to see out of Washington next week. And you have a LA Rams team that's going to be coming here next week. And I personally know some of those players on that team. I believe they're playing right now.
I think so. I think they had that the later game.
And remember who their head coach is, Sean McVay. And think about Sean McVay. Sean McVay, I'm sure he wanted great opportunities when he's here coaching in Washington. He was the offensive coordinator here in Washington. And he obviously went other places so he can become a head coach, and he made it to the Super Bowl. Like, Sean McVay is going to come in here with some swagger and a chip on his shoulder.
You're right.
And the bad part about it, that chip on his shoulder is going to be against a team that is 1-3. A team that's trying to find their way to get back to the winning ways, because they lost 3 straight. And payback is a...
Yeah, we won't say that.
That's the way I'm going to put it.
But we all know it. Right now, the Rams they're taking on the Giants today, and they're up 10-6. So a relatively close game there in the third quarter. Rams and Giants.
That just blows my mind, Charla. That blows my mind.
Because the Giants are not good.
Because the Giants, if they lose, they're winless. And the Cowboys still have one win. That the Washington football team is 1-3, and yet they're still in first place in the NFC East.
Now, we know the Eagles play tonight.
If they
play
win
at
the
San
NFC
Francisco,
East, they're
so
going to the
see.
playoffs. You know that, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
they are.
If Washington wins the NFC East, they're going to the playoffs.
Which,
like this could.
Yes. It blows our mind
I wonder
right now.
what's the worst record by a team to make the playoffs. Like, what's the worst record? Because we may break that record this year, the way the
exactly
NFC
right.
East is playing. The NFC East sucks right now.
They're not
They
good.
suck.
No.
Sorry, they just suck.
And
No,
as I
not-
said, the
not
Giants
at
are
all.
losing right now to the Rams.
Fool me once the first 2 weeks. We're week 4 now. Mm-hmm. Huh, Charlotte?
I said, and as I said, the Giants are losing right now to the Rams. So, yeah. Case in point, the NFC East has not looked good the first few weeks of the season.
Yeah.
Well, we've talked about a lot. We've broke it all down for you. It was a great game if you're a Ravens fan. It was not so great if you're a Washington football team fan. But again, a lot of the comments we're seeing on Facebook, and continue to comment. You can continue to see this on Facebook Live. You can go back and watch us on Facebook Live and comment, because we do like to look and see what you, the viewers and fans, are interested in and what you are saying about your team. So we will be up all week long. You can always check it out. And of course, if you're watching us on YouTube or on WUSA 9 app, we will be here every single week after the Washington football team plays their games. Hopefully, we will be talking about a win next week. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. Right, Darren?
I hope so, too. I hope so. I'm crossing my fingers on that one.
All right, good stuff. Thanks so much, Darren. Thank you. Live from the Washington football team's field there. And again, hopefully, we'll be seeing more wins this season. Thanks, guys.